Okay, so welcome to the second episode of Birth Your Medicine with Lesley on YouTube. And today I have my friend Mel.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for coming on. And again, I'm going to preface this because if you've been here before, you know that anytime I have anyone on, it's very real, it's very authentic. Mel probably has the most professional equipment out of anyone who I'll have on because she has an amazing podcast, which we'll talk about later. But mine is like, you get your raw light, your raw content. But to me, it feels very authentic, and that's who I usually meet with each week when I do this. So thanks for coming. Thanks for saying yes.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Happy to be
Yeah.
here.
And I think you and I have talked about this before. We always laugh because we can't actually pinpoint like where we met, but I bet it's literally at least like 12 years where you and I have like came in and out, in and out, in and out of each other's life.
Mhm.
Um, and in those realizations, realized that we ran in many different circles and groups at various times and very so I find that very interesting. Um, but we always seem to come back, and there always seems to be something that brings us back to.
Yeah, it was I've thought about this before, just where we actually met.
Mhm.
And then I'm still not definitive on the very first time. And so but I do know this is that we were supposed to meet.
Yes, yeah. It was clear. It was clear. And you and I always talk about how at the time I was selling lip stain and you came to my house
Yeah,
and you're always telling me like, "Oh, and I remember the cookies you served."
I do. I'm very food motivated.
Oh, but I for sure wanted to have you on because I find every single time you and I do, like, you call me on the phone or we connect somewhere or we meet up somewhere, we always have like so many great conversations. And that to me, that's what this channel is about. And
Mhm.
also to me, I want people to tell their story about like their medicine because I truly believe that every woman has their medicine. And I said this to you before I recorded. Last night I was sitting and I was thinking like, what do I think? What is my perception of Mel's medicine? And to me, I used the word networker because all of the different places that I saw you, um, you'll just see a person and you'll be like, boom, and you'll have saw them at a different event or something. And then you have this really keen eye for like connecting the right people or networking the right people to the right place. So that was my perception last night when I was kind of thinking, like, I wonder what her medicine is. And what would you say about that?
Well, it's interesting. So, I've thought about this before, and I would use people have told me that I'm a connector.
Hmm.
So a connector of people, a connector, sometimes I'll just get like I feel sometimes like I feel stuff for others so that I can like connect them to things or ideas or to people. Sometimes I'll just get hits of like, oh, this person needs to meet so and so or needs to connect with so and so. And so I feel, in fact, like a million years ago, I did up a business card. Um, and I didn't know what to say because I wanted it to represent me, but yet I wanted to represent a couple different things. So whether or not I was depending on what business or what event I was at, I wanted it to still be me. And so I threw up myself a picture of me, and then all I had underneath it, no website, no nothing. It just said connector. And I feel like that was that's that's kind of me. I've
Mhm.
done different businesses and stuff in the past that were about connecting people to things or connecting people into things, and I always had this like vision in my head of it was like a family of light bulbs
Mhm.
being connected together. So it's like, when you talk to somebody about it's like all these different light bulbs, going off.
Mhm.
Um, I wish I could actually show you a postcard that I did for something once, and it was exactly that. This all these different connected light bulbs, and
Mhm.
that's just kind of how I've always felt.
Neat. I totally agree because even when you and I have conversations, you'll say to me like, "Oh, I went to this place. I don't even know why I went to this place or I went to this particular event." But I find you say yes to things and yes to events, and you go there with curiosity. A lot of people, in my experience, a lot of people go to events or go to things looking for like a specific outcome. But since I've known you and when you sort of share your stories with me, I almost feel like you go and you're part of the experience, and then the outcome of whatever that's supposed to be kind of just happens.
Yeah, I guess. I never really thought of it like that, but I often will just get the hit to go somewhere or do something. And I'll be honest with you, it's a lot less lately than it used to be. I feel like those events and I'm having to retrain myself into this
Oh.
connected community mindset versus a little bit of the don't worry, just stay home away from the chaos and the misaligned energies that I've felt
Mm.
for the last few years. So I feel like I'm retraining myself to go back to events.
Mm.
So it has been, but I can remember a friend saying to me once, like, it just seems like you're going to lots, like you're doing lots. Like, what do you feel you need out of all these different things? And it wasn't exactly what you said. It wasn't that I felt like I needed something out of those things, but I just knew that if I was getting the thought to go, it's
Mm.
almost like, and it's not like I was going for a specific anything, but I feel like our life is about activations
Mhm.
of different people, different places, different things. And sometimes you're just meant to go and experience something and not have like an amazing result or share it with anybody else, but just to go and experience something from
Yeah.
somebody, like those energetic activations that you get from a conversation. It's like an imprint. It's like an energetic imprint that then
Mhm.
maybe you can go to the next conversation or the next person that you're going to talk to and have a little bit of an imprint from the last one that you had, right? So I feel
Mhm.
like it's this idea of, you know, imprinting energy. It seems very maternal when I say that. I bring up pictures of like birth and like, imprinting,
Mm. Right,
but
right.
it is, I think that's what's happening to us all the time
Yeah.
post birth.
Yeah, it's true. And I think sometimes like maybe we think it's at a particular time and it's not necessarily like like how do I explain this? Like maybe at a certain time we're meeting someone and we're making that first connection. And then it may not necessarily go anywhere for like months or years. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it comes back around. And that's what I have found over the years with yours and mine relationship is that it's like it'll just go off the radar and then it'll just come back on and it'll be like in a completely different environment.
Yeah.
And one of the stories I was saying to you that I wanted to talk about is um we sort of I think we've sort of pieced our memories together that we think that when you came here you probably talked about the company that you represent
Mhm.
um And you know, you're like, yeah, I for sure probably did talk about that. But it's interesting because I don't recall that conversation at all. And I was saying to you before this call about how sometimes we're just not even ready to hear it. And I've had that before where one of my girlfriends in Minnesota, you know, she'll recommend something to me that she's read or she's watched. And I'll hear it and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I should check that out." But for some reason it's just not the right time. And then months later I'll come back around and be like, "Oh my gosh, you need to check out this book that I just." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm the one who recommended that 6 months ago." And I'm like, "Oh." But I feel like timing is sometimes everything. And I do think this last time that's kind of what ended up bringing us together because I had went to have a live blood analysis and because I was very intrigued just to see like what that would be like.
Hmm.
And you know, Ron was like, "Oh, this, you know, here's this particular product. It's called Pretend. You know, might be beneficial with some of the stuff that you're seeing." And, you know, I heard him. I got excited. I was looking at it. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to try this. I'm going to sign up. And I swear it was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks later that you reached out. You're like, hey, do you want to meet in Sherwood Park for lunch? And we met for lunch. And I started telling you, I'm like, oh, yeah, you know, I started to take this product. And I'll never forget the look on your face. You were like, excuse me. And you said to me, you know what I do, right? And I'm like, no. And it was just one of those moments where, you know, then you got to tell me about, you know, what you do and what you've belonged to this for so long. So that's also why I wanted to have you on here because I think you're, you know, a wealth of knowledge in that department as well.
Yeah. So what do you want to hear about?
What was that? What was your perception of that day when we sat at that table and I brought it up? Like, were you like, "Hello, Lesley, I've remember I
Yeah.
told you about this 10 years
Yeah. I was
ago?"
like, w- so it just so happened to be that you heard about it from somebody who had also heard about it through somebody that had heard about it from me.
Yeah.
So it was like this crazy um connection, but it just goes to show that when the timing's right, because I hadn't reached out to you for a long time.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So I got the hit to reach out to you. It was like the it was like your phone being synced. and and then, we reached out and we connected. And so I really think that when people are like meant to hear about something, they'll hear about it from you or they'll hear about it from somebody else, but they're going to hear about it because
I believe that too.
there's so many things kind of pointing to that, right? But when you shared with me that you had heard about it, I was like, does she not remember? And but it just goes to show like that if you're passionate about something, if you're sharing something, like talk to the people in your life, because even if you mention something offhand, they're not going to necessarily connect the dots.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's like you say, it's the right timing. Would you have
Yeah.
connected it? Would you have understood the importance? You needed Ron to understand the importance of it, and then we were meant to connect. It was
Hmm.
supposed to happen exactly like that, because otherwise it would have happened somehow else.
Yeah. I just that day was just so funny to me when you were like, you know what I do, right? And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
And yet we've had many other conversations about it. And I'm great, you know, I am grateful for sure that Ron introduced me specifically to the protandem.
Yeah.
And then when you and I got to have that conversation that day, then you were able to like educate me a little bit more on the whole company itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it honestly, it has become the most important thing that I've ever done.
Mm,
And
wow.
because maybe I just didn't do many important things, who knows?
I don't believe it.
But I feel like it's had the most impact
Mm,
because if you know about something that helps people from a cellular perspective and it helps just create more vitality in their life, it has such a reaching impact that I didn't expect when I heard about it. I had
mm,
just heard about it. My husband had um, fallen and hurting his neck and his back, and I had somebody that I knew reach out and basically say, "Hey, this is what he needs," right? And then I went looking for it. I only had a couple of days to find it because he was heading up north to work. And since then, the importance and what I've seen with people's vitality has, um, and not just people, animals, any mammal,
mm,
um, has completely shifted about what I thought about health or energy or vitality and just the importance of taking care of our body, which it's,
mhm.
it's not like I'm the stellar advocate for, I'll just preface that. But it
No.
is, I'm not doing absolutely everything right, but I am doing this right. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, what I also see is when you're in this role, because I've saw you, put on the workshops and talks and education things as well, is from an observer's point of view, I still see you in that connector and networker. Because for me, like I don't like sales. And I'm not the
yeah,
kind of person like I'm not the kind of person like even with like remember when he came over to get some lipstick, It was
yeah,
like I was using that product because I really liked it. And
yeah,
so therefore it just made it easy for me to talk about and then other
yeah,
people could just pick it up, right?
yeah.
And I think the same when I met you and I see that from you too, right? It's like you're like, I'm speaking from my own personal place with this, and then the close friends and the close family that I've seen. Um, and and it's like it's that connection piece again.
Well, like we're all in this world of social media right now, right?
Hmm.
And when you see something online that just makes you feel icky and it's somebody doing here, let me grab a bottle. And it's like fake and contrived and oh, look at me taking my whatever drink and it, that just that energetic feel that they're doing it for a reason, but they're not sharing
Hmm.
the reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I feel like is so important, and it's it's missing in so many things now. Yes, maybe you didn't know what I was doing, but I'm actually prouder of that, Lesley. I'm prouder of that you didn't know and that we're connected and in a in social circles together than seeing me for 40 years on Facebook and being annoyed by me r- trying to sell
Yeah.
you something, right? Like
Or
there's
seeing
a
you and
time,
running the other way.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, there's the lady.
there's a time and a place for it. And I feel like
Mhm.
honestly, it no one's going to do anything with somebody that first of all that they don't want to or that they feel icky from, that they don't like or that they don't trust. So it's important to not piss off everybody in your circle, which I probably have. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I probably have. My
Yeah.
kids, like, they're like, "Oh my gosh, mom,
Mom.
do you have to talk about this everywhere?" Um, but it is such a fine line. So I'm honored that you actually didn't know what I did when we met, because it is important, but I think it's also important that you heard about it in the way that you heard about it.
Hmm. And you know what? I think that probably helped,
Mhm.
because if it would have been that very first, like, oh, hey, this is who I am, and you should do this, and you should
Yeah.
like, I bet we probably wouldn't be at this, because it'd have probably put, but
Yeah.
the fact that over the years I really got to know you, and then the more information I got, I knew it was coming from a place of like real and authentic, which is an integrity, which is super important to me.
Yeah.
And for me, I can always feel like I love that people like they find, whether it's a modality, whether it's a product, whether it's a person, whether it's a religion, whatever it is that they like, it has been life changing for them. And when you actually see them living it, you're more attracted to being like, hey, what is it that that person like? Because they themselves are flourishing and growing and happy and glowing, versus that person having to knock on the door and like, oh, hey, guess what? Hey, guess what? Hey, guess what? Right? It's
Yeah.
like you don't necessarily even have to do that, because you're actually just living it. And for me, that's important. Um, I guess I would say maybe I'm more of an experimenter. Like I need to know that something is making a difference in my life, in my health, um, before I'm probably going to mention it to anyone.
Mhm.
Um, just because of that fact of social media, because there's something for this and this and this and this always.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Hmm. And I've said this to you before, from my own personal experience. I now don't know what, because I have that baseline for myself. And I mean, I think this is a good conversation around how in my 40s now, it's much different than Lesley in her 30s. Lesley in her 30s was always looking for that quick fix of something. And
Mm.
it came from a maybe like a wanting to change self standpoint. Whereas
Mhm.
Lesley in her 40s now looks at health very, very differently. And it is that word you used, vitality. Like, how can I, when I'm 80, how can I still be like going up and down the stairs and, not creaky in my joints and, like all, it's about this, it's about living a great life for a longer period of time. And so my definition of health has changed. And so now that for me, since I have been committed to taking, the Protandim and omega-3s and, some of the other products, I now don't know, like if I were to go, I don't know what that would be like. I bet my body would be having, I've told you that before, like maybe I should do the experiment of what it would be like without, but then I'm like, I know Lesley before she was taking it, and some of the issues that were coming up.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do that. And actually one of our mutual friends recently did. And she said she'll never do it again. And I mean, here's the thing, nobody wants to spend money. Nobody wants to spend money on
Yeah.
things, right? So
Mhm.
you only there, and there's so many different things that you could be doing. But the difference between activating something in your body
Oh,
versus
my sister.
supplementing something in your body, if you're supplementing something in your body, you're basically giving it, something that you're low in or something that you need more of. Versus if you're activating and you are turning on your body to work like it was designed to, like it was supposed to, and you're turning on specific
Mm,
pathways in your body that start to function like they're supposed to when you were young, that's
mhm,
entirely different. And so that's what we're talking about. That's the difference between activating something and That's what these are, is they're cellular activators that then turn, and there's not all of our products are life changing, and not all of them are like, activators. Some of them are supplementary products to the activators. But what I have seen when we talk about this idea of activating, it's like, like when you see people push the dominoes,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and that one domino gets pushed, and then the other dominoes start to fall, and then pretty soon a whole room full away, all those dominoes are down. And it's like, and then sometimes some of those dominoes at the end are really, really big, and you just
Mm-hmm.
started out pushing a little one, but over time all those little dominoes start to fall. And that's what I look at cellular activation is. And
Mm.
because you start to push one domino, and all of a sudden it's like and if you think about us as like a mountain of cells,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
A mountain
Yeah.
of cells. And if we can start to clean up one cell, and that cell works better and is in better communication with the cells that it interacts with, and then those cells are in better communication with the cells that they interact with,
Mm-hmm.
pretty soon our entire system is in better communication with everything. And you thought you were taking a cellular activator for your arthritis because it helps your hands, and you didn't realize that actually the cells in your eyes and your brain and your gut and your organs are all
Mm-hmm.
functioning a little bit better. And
Yeah.
that's actually why I named my podcast Activate and Illuminate, was because
Oh.
I had been talking to people for so long about this idea of activation, and I started to see stories of people. They start activating themselves in one way, and
Mm.
then pretty soon they think they're just taking a cellular something. Most of them don't even really know that it's a cellular activator. They just think they're taking a pill.
Yeah.
But then they start to become a better parent, or they no longer have anxiety, and now that they're just connecting with their friends a little bit better, or
Mm.
they're able to um just show up a little bit differently for their parents,
Mm-hmm.
or the elderly parents are able to show up a little bit differently for their grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
When you can get down on the floor and play with a kid, that's a lot different than sitting in a chair being all miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to see those dominoes
Mm.
click, click, click. And that's what I had been talking to people about for so long, that I was like, that idea of telling people stories, and like what you said about how everybody has a story, I really
Yeah.
think that's true. Just so people know that the podcast is not about cellular activation,
No.
but everybody has a story, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody has ways in which they can help activate and illuminate others, or be activated and illuminated by others, because every person's story can help in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's also why I align so much like with this as well, is because I believe the same thing in the energetic part of ourself.
Yeah.
I always believe, hence why this birth your medicine. I think every single person has their medicine about them.
Hmm.
And what it takes is the activation of being able to open up to that, remember it. It's like, oh yeah, I actually did. I used to do it like as a kid. I always did
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
And there's this period of like dormancy, whether that be because belief system, whatever takes place. But then at a certain point when we're ready again, it
Hmm.
becomes activated. And again, it's also related to the cells, the cells carry those memories, and so for me these two things go hand in hand, because if my physical body is much more clearer, and I've heard you say this before, can hold more light, hence the illuminate part, then I think my mental, spiritual, emotional self is also clearly being affected.
Yeah, I couldn't prove it, but I knew that what was happening. So basically, so the flagship product that we're talking about is Protandem. What it actually does is it clears up that cellular stress and that oxidative stress, which is essentially the root cause of just about every condition. So it stands to reason that you start cleaning stuff up and you go and you clean up your house. It's going to be cleaner. It's going to feel better. It's going to work better. But I hadn't really thought about it in terms of, okay, so what happens now that you have a clean house?
Mm-hmm.
You have more space in it. You have more space to bring in things. You can then say, "Oh wow, a painting would look great on that wall." Or look at there's space for me to actually bring in something new.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think it's doing. I think it's cleaning up your cells, getting rid of yourself. It's actually detoxing your body by cleaning up your cells. And then there's space. So, one of the first things that I was so excited to use ChatGPT for, or like AI, was I asked for it to explain to me what this particular protein, when activated, that Protandim activates, called NRF2, what it did in regards to light.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fascinating. I was fascinated by what it shared with me, which is basically everything that I had always felt about it, is that by cleaning this stuff up inside of our bodies, we're actually able to hold more light, and that our bodies essentially are like a tuning fork that creates a resonance when activated that is essential for our vitality.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went on, and I don't actually have it in front of me. I mean, I could find it if you want me to, but um, when I went and I got that description, it confirmed everything that I'd ever felt about it, which is what I saw happening in people, which is it may just
Oh,
be a simple little yellow pill, but
yeah.
when they start taking it, that decision to take care of themselves, that decision was the domino that started a whole host of other things.
Mm-hmm.
And because people can't make the decision to get well and to get better without actually deciding to. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
some people are so attached to their story or their sickness or their disease that they actually don't actually, if they examine it, really want to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I talk to people about that all the time. Like, what is this dis-ease or disharmony in your circumstances giving you?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it is giving us something.
Yeah.
And when we realize, like, oh, we've created this in order to get this,
Yeah.
then we can go, what if we go and we already have this and we don't need this dis-ease and disharmony to feel this way.
I've actually had people, Lesley, tell me, and not just one, I've had multiple people tell me, excuse me, that they can't no longer take it because they will not get funded for AISH or funded for different conditions. That in order
Mm,
to, for example, have children diagnosed properly on different things, that it was helping so much that they couldn't give it to their children anymore because then they wouldn't be eligible for funding.
right.
So it's like that
Interesting.
story that are we buying into this story of that we have this condition that we then have to shift the rest of our life to support, or
Hmm.
or are we?
And sometimes how limiting that can be because we have a
Yeah,
belief system that this particular thing, whether, in these circumstances, maybe money or funding,
yeah.
if this is how we get it, then we need to keep the situation that way. See, and this is why I find it fascinating because it's all connected. There's that root piece again, that if you
Yeah.
get to the root of it, like, do we really want to heal? Do we really want to get better? Do we really want to live? Um, those are
Yeah.
big questions for people. Because most of
Well,
the time it's like, well, I'm living. It's like, well, am I existing? I've had that conversation with myself many times. Are you really living, or are you just existing?
it comes down to so many different things, right? I've had people, um, e essentially, this is a networking business. It's built
Hmm.
off referrals. Um, but I've had people that were sharing it that were so, um, successful at sharing it, that were doing so well at it, that the people that they were sharing it with were seeing so many great benefits, that those people actually decided that they couldn't share it anymore because they didn't wanna make too much money to not be eligible for specific things,
Hmm.
right? And so it's like, okay, so what system are we supporting? Are we supporting that we are able to be sovereign and independent, and that we actually do have this abundance thing that could happen for us? Or do we say no? And so I've had that happen so many times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's human nature to want to hold on to something that we have, but at the same time, if we're holding on to what we have, we can never have anything else.
Hmm. And I think I talked to you about this too, because like 3 months ago when I went to buy my new car, there was some of that mindset stuff. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, well, I haven't had a car payment for years, right?
yeah,
So then I had to really sit with this whole idea of like, okay, well, where can I take away things so that I now have this money for this car payment? And then, of course, you start to look at these things like, my subscription to my activators. I'm like, oh, okay, well, there's this much money a month. Maybe I better stop taking that. And oh, when I
yeah,
get my hair, okay, I better stop. And you start to take away often the things that are good for you in order to get this. And I realized, I was like, no, that's just a mindset. I don't actually have to take away anything. I can have both. And I was thinking to myself, one, I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't use drugs. Like, so if I were to do or go gambling, if I were to do
yeah,
those things, it would take a significant amount of money. Instead, I'm taking that money and I'm putting it towards a monthly subscription that comes to my house. And when I'm drinking my collagen and I'm taking my Protandim, that when I look at the description of like what's in it, I'm like, I can read every single one of these. I know the name of every single one of these ingredients, like
yeah,
it aligns with me because it's plant medicine, it's
yeah,
coming from Mother Earth. It's not a bunch of letters and words that I don't understand. And it's like, no, you're giving yourself the gift of healthy life to be this amazing fucking mother, to your amazing kids.
yeah. I think that we always talk ourselves into our circumstances, whether
Hmm.
constricting or expanding. So
Hmm.
I was actually having a conversation this morning with somebody about this because a little over a couple years ago, I decided to try to get my shit together and go to the gym. Whoa, I hit 50. And so, but if you would have asked me 2.5 years ago, if I would have spent that money every month that I'm spending on a personal trainer, which, because for me, now, not everybody's like this, but for me, the success of me getting to the gym depended upon an appointment. And I just found that it it was, to me, the relationship that I had with the personal trainer was the reason that I was succeeding in different things. So I was like,
Mm.
to me, that was important.
Hmm.
And But if you would have asked me 2.5 years ago whether I ever would have spent that money, I would have said no, absolutely no way. There's no way. There's no way I would spend that money every month because I would never have considered myself, first of all, I wouldn't have considered myself worthy of it, probably would be the thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
then you start to go, okay, so where can I cut out? What can I cut back on? But it was actually in saying yes to that that created a yes to so many other things. And it
Mm-hmm.
was in saying yes to the hard things. Honestly, walking into that gym for the first time was the hardest thing. I would rather speak in front of 5,000 people. I promise you. I had so much anxiety about walking into that gym. I just happened to be walking past one time and I didn't realize afterwards that they had a sewer leak and their door was only open because it smelled inside, and it only opened like shortly before I was to walk past. So just take all that in for a sec. So, right? Like it was like the universe is lining, like we're going to kick anything we can to get you to actually be able to take a step inside that gym.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that that's probably the thing that honestly created, I felt like there was just so much resistance to it and the shame that I felt around carrying extra weight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like the weight has miraculously, all left, but I felt so much shame around promoting a product, a health product, and having extra weight on me that
Right.
it was creating such a disharmony in my yeah, I felt it, right? And
Yeah.
it was such a big step that I feel like there was so many other things afterwards that happened as a result of just trusting myself more, because when I actually did something that I was so scared of, fucking terrified of, then you start to trust yourself in other little tiny things, right?
Huge, huge, right?
It,
I actually had this conversation with someone um who has it's been interesting because it has been part of her. I'd love to actually ask her if she'd come on sometime too to talk, but she's been part of lots of different health modalities and health things
mm,
and focusing, on weight and stuff. And then realized like, hey, I might want to like go back to school to be like a health coach. And she was having this like bit of an identity thing where she was saying like, yeah, I carry extra pound. I am also struggling with this. So what would that look like to have my name on a card saying health coach when people look at me and not maybe don't see health? But what she and I were talking about is the difference between how, like I think about you, like you were talking about the gym. It's like 2 years ago, how much stronger, like stronger your muscles are, how
yeah,
much like you can't see your bones. Like how
no,
much more bone density do you have? Like instead of us always defining like this shell part, it's how about we're working from the inside out? And that's
yeah,
that's the other part that I really liked about the education that you've taught me and the business has taught me is about that. Like we're not talking about like here's the miracle thing and you're going to lose weight. It's no,
yeah,
it's talking about cells which are inside your body and you're rebuilding health.
yeah. If health was just about the external, I mean, we'd all go get a boob job and a tummy tuck and we'd be good.
Hmm. Yeah. Sign me up.
um, but yeah, I I 100% agree. And that being said, like that decision to activate your cells, it just it compounds in so many ways.
Mhm.
So many
Well,
ways.
and I mean, I've shared this with you, and I've shared this with quite a few. So I'm in that age group where many of us are going through perimenopause and menopause. And I didn't necessarily have a ton of, but I noticed things were starting to change with me, with my cycle, with the way I was feeling. And I've been having a lot of conversations with my friends and people around me. And now what I find very interesting, because it's the same, like I don't actually know, like I don't have evidence to know that this is the exact thing. But when I do this exact same thing every single morning, and I have this routine with my activators and my jiggle machine, and I got my routine of like what I'm doing. When other people are telling me and they're really struggling with like symptoms of perimenopause and menopause, I don't. Like I
Yeah.
don't have the hot flashes. I don't have a difficulty sleeping. I don't have brain fog. Um, if I do have those things, it's often because I haven't been taking care of myself. I haven't been getting a good sleep. I haven't been outside. I haven't been, oh, geez, I haven't taken my activators. So it was interesting me to start to hear that people were having all of these things, and I'm like, wow, wow, could this be a factor in why I'm not having that same menopausal or perimenopausal experience? I don't know.
I'm 52 and I've never had a hot flash. um, Now, my mom, I think, didn't have a ton of menopausal symptoms, but um, I will tell you, in my mom's health, she was hit with a diagnosis that was fairly concerning for her. And I see her now at 12 years later.
Mhm.
12 years later, um, with less wrinkles on her face than a lot of people my age. Eh, You know, her vitality now is so um, fantastic.
Mhm.
Like, I just see her and what it did. Um, Now, it's not to say that we can say this does this for everybody, but for her, turning on her body to reduce the root cause of some of these things gave her
Mhm.
hope. It gave her
Oh.
hope that, um, the story that you're told when you get a diagnosis maybe isn't necessarily the only story. Um, the story that you're told, I think people in our um, medical system often feel like if they're told something that it's final,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? If they're told something, it's final. And it doesn't have to be that way. Our cells get sick one cell at a time and they get better one cell at a time. And you
Hmm.
can there's all kinds of things that you can do if you are in a state of dis-ease to start
Yeah.
getting it more into a state of ease. And I think that's the fallacy that we've been told about our healthcare system is that it is there's a lot of fear around certain things.
Hmm.
And well, I'll give you can I share a personal story?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if I've even told you this before, Lesley, but um, quite some time ago, probably about maybe 13 years ago, 12 years ago, um, I found out that I had a little something on my parathyroid. And it was disturbing my basically when you do that, it disrupts your calcium feedback system and it's dumping
Hmm.
calcium into areas of your body that you don't know. And it was creating a huge amount of things. In fact, when they realized that I had this little um, cyst on my parathyroid, they basically said, "Are you experiencing psychosis yet?" And I was like, not yet, but I am forgetting my purse about 4 times a week every time I go to town. So I don't know what that
Hmm.
means. But um, when I was diagnosed with this little thing, no big deal, right? they basically said that they wanted to take it out. But in the meantime, I'd gone to see this specialist, and he had died. In the meantime, then they tell me that I am essentially riddled with throat cancer. I've got 5 different spots of throat cancer. And I have to wait about 6 weeks or 6 months for these biopsies. And I'm in there on the table getting these biopsies done. And they said, oh, we got to check her file, because they were doing the ultrasound on my neck and they couldn't find it. So they have to check the file. And it wasn't even my file. They put a Mohammed's name into my file. And so the fear that I felt for 6 months,
Wow.
of thinking that I had thyroid cancer, that I might not, that my kids might grow up without a mom or different things. That was the thing that pissed me off the most, was where I let my body go. And then the resulting impact of what that fear did in my mind and in my body.
Right.
So it was such a good lesson to me, because they screw up all the time. You're much more higher chance of dying of a medical mistake than you are of a lot of different conditions or diseases. So it's like, what are we doing when we hear something or when we're told something? The place that we go to, and the fear that we're taught. And I actually think that it's so prevalent in our healthcare system that they are actively trying to get you to act out of fear.
Oh, so many people act out of fear. Yeah.
Right? And then you're taught that if you don't, the world's going to end. And yeah, if only you would have listened back here, because so it's so many different contributing things. But essentially, what I like is knowing that there's something that you can do to turn your body on to act like it should, like it's supposed to. There's things that you can do. And then when your body's acting like it's supposed to, all those dominoes start to flick each other over. Right? So something that seemed like a mountain at the end can be flicked over by, simple little things down the road. And
that's why I think, like, too, when I was talking about that thing, like, if we're always focused on the end goal of the thing that we want, we're missing out on the things in between, right?
Yeah.
And so if it's I'm just going to use weight as an example, because health and weight often go hand in hand, right? It's like, if we're looking at the end result as this miracle thing is going to help me lose weight, but we're missing out on the fact that it is helping this, and this, and the result of that is the weight. To me, that's that preventative thing, because it's not just about the weight, it's about all those other little root causes in between that are shifting the things we can't see inside of our body.
Well, and so much is like this oxidative stress, this cellular stress, is the root cause of so many conditions.
Yeah.
Root cause of anxiety, of depression, of, a lot of people with PTSD, a lot of people with, different things. When you start to reduce that cellular stress, their thoughts, like, I've had people tell me, listen, like, I no longer feel like killing myself. It's not to say that it's necessarily going to do that for you, but when you can do that for somebody, that's a pretty significant thing, given the alternative. And it's like, what we can clinically say is that we can reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days and up to 70% over 120 days. So that is like if you think of like up to 70% of your cellular oxidative stress, that's huge. That
Yeah.
and we get
Yeah.
that oxidative stress from like the environment, we get it from our thoughts, we get it from our, you know, financial pressure, we get it from our food, from our toxic friendships, from our, you have that cellular stress from so many different things that you can't necessarily um you, you can't control what's coming
Hmm.
at you. You get
Well,
it
that's
from
the thing. You can't remove all of those things.
no.
You can lessen them because what I've noticed is since I became a bit more educated in oxidative stress, and what it is and what it actually does to your body, you can start to eliminate that in areas of your house, like in your household, like fragrances and cleaning products and
Yeah,
things. And pretty soon you start to lessen those, but you can't necessarily get rid of chemtrails. You can't necessarily get rid of family members. It's like
yeah,
you can only control and eliminate so much. But if you're also using then an activator, and now what I find interesting is, I don't know if I was telling you about this. Like my daughter and I were walking in the mall, and we were walking by one of the like soap, candle like shops. And I
yeah.
mean, I used to line up to get, the candle sale there. And we were literally walking by, and it was just wafting out, and it was just like, I was like, I can't even go in there. And I saw this post the very same day. This woman says, like, how are these stores still staying opened when we know what happens to our bodies when we're burning those or when we're using those particular fragrances and things like that. And it never used to bother me, but I can tell that since my system is cleaner of that,
Yeah.
I can't handle it as much. It's the scents and stuff like that trigger me a lot more.
Yesterday I was in the mall for the first time in like a million years. And I walked past the body shop and same thing. I was
Hmm.
just like assaulted with the fragrances and the smells. And it had been a long time since I had walked past anything like that. Um, my husband was away for work and stayed in a hotel, and he said they had one of those Glade plugins. Now he unplugged it and put it in a bag, but even so, he still wasn't able to sleep all night because he said he could just everything was so toxic in that room that he could feel it so much.
Wow. Yeah.
And you don't know if you're so
Mhm.
used to plugging them in, you start to desensitize yourself. I can smell it instantly. I can't actually even be around scented candles or anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, but it is your body just becomes used to the toxins.
Yeah. Oh, 2 years ago, I'd have been lining up to buy because there's this idea of like, oh, scent make things fresh.
Yeah.
Oh, I like the smell of that. But then when your body, for me, it was like when my body starts to give me a different reaction to it, to be like a repelling versus a like, that smells so great.
Yeah.
Something has changed in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Huh. Well, one thing I know, I'm watching the time, so we
Okay.
don't, because we could talk for 5 hours, I'm
Yeah.
sure, like we usually do when we get on the phone. Um, but yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm so grateful for is that all of those times, all of those different circles have brought us, back together. And I think the thing is like we all have this common goal to really be able to like show up authentically and to share our own experience that may contribute to helping someone else. And that's the reason why I wanted to have you on. It's not a plug. It's not a because no matter what, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna continue to still um, just because I bought the car doesn't mean I closed this subscription, right? It's because I know that it's making a difference in my life. And you for me are just that like knowledge around a little bit more of the science and things like that. So thanks for sharing that.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. It
Hmm.
and for honestly just for saying yes to yourself, because I feel like you saying yes to yourself meant that like you were back in my circles in so many different ways.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, and I'm gonna also link your podcast in
Oh,
our
thank
episode
you.
because yeah, even I just love listening to the guests that you have on because I love the way you broach different topics and things that maybe necessarily people don't always want to talk about, or there's some tough stuff in there that I think again it comes back to that curiosity, and I love that you have a curiosity to ask the right questions, and so I want to share that
Oh,
and promote it
thank you.
with people.
Do you want to know who I did a podcast with today that I'm so it's not out there yet. It'll be out in a few weeks, but um one of the mums from the telepathy tapes. And
Mm.
it was such a fascinating conversation and perspective on telepathy and this whole field of information that's around all of us from that perspective. It was I'm so stoked for it.
Oh, I love that. I'm absolutely going to listen to that because I've listened to all the episodes of the telepathy tapes, and I'm always promoting that to people like, if you haven't listened to this, you need to listen to this.
Yeah.
So I can't
Yeah.
wait to listen to that. So
Thanks so much.
yeah, I'm gonna hit